it's John McCabe. Welcome to the show. In your business or field of expertise. And we do that by helping entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, expert speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed on any device, anywhere, anytime in as little as 15 hours, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now on today's show, Anything Goes Friday, my guest is someone I've met a couple of years ago at a marketing event in San Diego. I can't remember exactly which event it was. There have been so many, but it was either one on the publishing or webcasting. Maybe she'll recall. Anutza Bellissimo is an international best-selling author of The Highly Effective Executive and A Woman's Guide to Transforming Anger and Stress into Personal Power and Success. She helps individuals struggling to effectively manage their stress or anger in personal and professional relationships when there's communication breakdown in personal relationships and ineffective communication skills in the business. Now, she helps these people that suffer from emotional fitness deficiency and have a stress response that has been conditioned in a high-stress personality through emotional fitness education, stress management training, and assertive communication coaching. I'm going to be honest, much of this stuff I really don't understand, but by having her on the show today, I'm sure that she's going to help me understand a lot of it, and it's going to become crystal clear. Now, Anutza has also been featured on the History Channel documentary 7 Deadly Sins, talking about anger. Now, I'll run a short clip from that show just before I bring her on to this show, just so you can see exactly what she's talking about, a little bit more about her and her business. Now, she's been coaching individuals and working with organizations to minimize conflicting workforce behavior and engineering valuable organizational performance since 1999. Anutza facilitates conflict resolution, stress management, anger management, and emotional fitness training. Now, her mission is to encourage dynamic change to regain our natural ability to deliver our very best. Now, she believes inspiring leadership cultivates an extraordinary human potential that lies within each of us. Now, on today's show, we'll get into a lot of that stuff, and we'll also find out if there's some strategies that can be effective for people maybe without anger issues, and if so, how can they be utilized by entrepreneurs in their business. So I'll be right back, so stick around. When I come back, I'm going to be joined by Anutza Bellissimo, but first, here's a clip from the History Channel show 7 Deadly Sins.
The 7 deadly sins. They exist in each of us. Lust, envy, gluttony, sloth, greed, anger, and pride. The sin of anger has evolved over the centuries. Christian theology once said that those who commit the sin face the eternal fires of hell. But there are some sinners who are tormented by anger even in this life.
I was in a relationship, things didn't go well, to sum it up, and didn't know how to handle it. Went, bought 2 gallons of gasoline, broke out the windows in the middle of the daytime. I live in an apartment complex, filled her car up with gas, set it on fire, blew up the car in an underground parking garage. The whole place had to be evacuated, and I could have killed hundreds of people.
I snapped. I beat them up. Bad enough for the courts to say, you know what, 5 years prison time.
These men aren't dealing with their sin through confession and repentance, but through anger management. The sin of anger is so widespread in society that the concept of anger management has entered the pop culture lexicon. Anutza Bellissimo is a specialist who has treated thousands of people with anger issues.
Anger in today's society, I believe, is a very serious issue. Looking at one simple statistic of 18,000 assaults being reported per week in the U.S., I think anger is definitely an issue.
Bellissimo says that anger is not a deadly sin, but an inappropriate behavior.
I do not believe you can get rid of anger. I feel that anger is a very necessary human emotion. For me, anger is a red flag. For me, anger is a way of acknowledging that there's things that I'm not dealing with.
Experts say that the key to overcoming anger is less about controlling rage and more about creating connections.
If you tell them this anger is destroying your relationship with your wife or your children, that seems to work. Having a relationship, that's what humanity is all about. Our connection to each other.
Tradition claims that the sin of anger is punishable by eternal damnation. But Bellissimo feels this religious approach is useless in the modern world.
I've never been able to scare any angry students from being angry because they would go to hell. I've never been able to use that as a tool.
Hey guys, and thanks for joining us today. As you just watched, my guest is an expert when it comes to the field of anger management and conflict resolution. Anutza Bellissimo is an international best-selling author, CEO of the Stress and Anger Management Institute, been featured on the History Channel's 7 Deadly Sins, as you just watched, and works with CEOs and executives to minimize their conflicting workforce behavior and engineer valuable organizational performance. So please give it up with this flurry of likes, love, shares, and heart icons going across the screen for my guest today, Bellissimo. Oh my God, I can't believe I just screwed up your name. Anutza Bellissimo.
Anutza Bellissimo. You got
Anutza
it.
Bellissimo. How you doing, Anutza?
I'm really good. How are you, John?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks.
I know it's a tongue twister, that name, and it takes a while to remember it as well.
And I had no problem pronouncing it, and then just all of a sudden it's like it escaped me. I combined your first and last name into your first name. So in prepping for the show this morning, I was at the gym, and Anutza specializes in anger management, and she was looking over the stuff that we're going to talk about. And I sent her a comment because I was on the cardio machine, and it was a vulgar comment about how much I hate cardio. And I asked her,
you did.
I asked her if she could sense the anger in my comment. So
I could feel it coming through.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sure a lot of people have that same anger when they're doing cardio for 30 to 60 minutes. It's like,
See, I think I'm different. I love cardio. I love the rower machine. I'm all about that rower and throwing it for 30 minutes at least.
Oh, good. You can have that. I prefer, I actually much prefer playing sports, but because of injuries, being an athlete for years, not able to play all the sports that I love. So that's how it was so easy to stay in shape back then, but not so much now. You're basically forced to go to the gym, or, we're in a climate. I'm not in a climate like you where it's nice all the time, or in the summertime it's probably too hot to go outside. Here it's the opposite. Right. In the wintertime it's too cold to go outside, so we have to do other activities like go to the gym or find something else to do. But anyway.
Well, I'm from Chicago, so I can relate.
Oh, you know what the winters are like, yeah.
I know what the winters are like. I know the black ice and the snow-ins and all of that fun stuff.
So would you, just a quick question, would you prefer the cold winters or the hot summers you have right now in Arizona?
I would prefer the cold winter.
Okay.
Because you can only take off so much clothes and you're still hot.
Yeah.
But I can bundle up and put on more clothes if I'm cold.
That's true.
It's it's tough, but I survive it because I tell myself, this is my winter. This is what this is just like my winter in Chicago, except I don't have to wear a coat.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to the show. So first thing I like to do with everybody before we get started is just to find out a little bit more about the individuals, so the people watching get to learn a little bit more about you. And what we do is we do a speed round of 10 questions. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you've watched the show before, but yeah, actually you have, because I remember you making comments to me. So the questions sort of remain the same. I change them up every once in a while, but it's just a speed round of 10 questions. And for anyone that's watching live, feel free to answer the questions yourself, post them in the Facebook comment, and just play along with Anutza, and let's see how your answers compare. So Y'all are set to go?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the very first one, name the book that impacted your life the most.
So I have two. Sorry. So the first one is The Princessa, Machiavelli for Women. And the other one is Courage by Debbie Ford.
Okay. When you were a young girl, who was your celebrity crush?
Ricky Martin. Am I aging? Am I dating myself?
No, I don't think he's that old, is he?
Oh, please.
I don't know how old Ricky Martin is, but I thought
That's why we can't do sports. That's why we go to the gym now.
Okay.
Remember?
So what book, podcast, or show are you into right now?
Book is Watch Your Tongue and Watch Your Mouth, The Power of the Tongue by Tony Evans. And podcasts, I really like Anthony Robbins' podcast and motivational podcasts that keep me on my game. But I love John Assaraf as well. He doesn't really have a podcast that I know of. He's more about video.
Yeah. So are you currently working with any coaches?
I am. Would you like to know what kind?
Sure. What kind? Who are they?
So I'm actually working with a stand-up comedy coach right now. I'm putting together a show. My topic, my profession can be such a heavy topic for so many people. Maybe I'm just, too familiar with it. So it doesn't bother me, and I have a lot of humor around it.
Yep.
But I'm also extremely optimistic. So I can see, the silver lining in anything. Yeah. But I have a comedy coach right now, and I'm in my level 2. So I have my first show coming up soon. I will not tell you about that.
Very nice.
But that's what I'm doing. I have a comedy coach right now, stand-up comedy coach.
Excellent. I don't know if you noticed one of the previous episodes I had Jamar John Johnson. He's actually a stand-up comedian in LA, and he teaches salespeople and marketers stand-up comedy to help them become better at their profession. So
yes, because everybody likes someone who can make them laugh.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, isn't that like the thing that women look for in men? Oh, I want someone who can make me laugh.
True. Yes.
Not me, because I'm the funny one over here. Okay?
That's probably why I'm single, because I'm not very funny. All right. So moving on. What is your favorite movie of all time?
Silence of the Lambs.
Are you currently involved in any masterminds?
Yes, one.
Okay. Name the person, either dead or alive, who you'd most like to meet and have dinner with.
Jesus.
Favorite type of vacation, beach or adventure tour?
Adventure tour.
The best business advice you ever received?
Understand their intentions first.
Okay. Next one's a two-part question. And water, beer, wine, or champagne, and then pizza, wings, or salad.
Champagne, salad.
Okay, excellent. So everyone give Anutza some love. Hit the like button, the love button, and definitely feel free to put in your comments. And if you have any questions along the way, please put them in. We'll try to get to them during the show. And I always do shout outs throughout the show as well for anyone that's joined us live. And if you have any specific comments, we'll definitely get those on. But so feel free to type all of that stuff in the Facebook comments. And if you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Anutza Bellissimo. She's an international best-selling author, CEO of the Stress and Anger Management Institute. It's been featured on the History Channel 7 Deadly Sins, and works with CEOs and executives to minimize conflicting workforce behavior and engineer valuable organizational performance. So Anutza, can you give the viewers who may not know sort of your origin story or who you are, basically how you got started, how you got into this industry, sort of just give us your origin story and from back then to where you are now?
Well, it started as a baby.
Not that far back.
Not that far back?
No.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Okay, we have enough time.
Yeah, if we don't want to ask any questions, you can tell us your life story in the next How much time do we have? Oh,
well, it might, you
40
might
minutes?
understand why I do what I do if we get the start.
Okay, you just start talking, and when the 45 minutes are up, I guess we'll just shut the show down.
We'll just shut it down. Okay, great. So actually, I'll start from 1999. Is that far back enough?
That's good, yeah.
Okay. So I started out as life purpose and career consultant, and in the transition of careers for a huge transition for American Airlines. And that's how I got into personal growth and development. Although I had been introduced to it prior to that, and it's been always a piece of my life, but professionally, that's how I began. So come around, processing that 1999 and getting into the spirit of my work. And then come around 2005, I had a mentor share with me that I would want to look into anger management. And my reaction was to laugh because the only thing I knew about it was the movie, which is what everybody knows about anger management, right? So I thought, are you kidding me?
So you're going to become the new Jack Nicklaus of anger management?
Well, I sort of am, but I'm better than that, okay? Because, I'm not making people angry. I'm not testing them, so to speak, in that way.
Okay.
So, I laughed. And then once I stopped laughing, I decided to look into it. And it spoke to me. And it really made sense that what makes up the skill set that makes up anger management and how it's so helpful for people. The only problem is that there's this myth that anger management is for angry people.
Okay.
So we could get into that later, but so I wanted, to explain a little more that how I got into that with the History Channel. So I think it was two-sided here. First of all, there's not many women in anger management. So whenever I share with someone that I teach conflict resolution skills and anger management, they never remember that in a sense, or they laugh because they don't put the two together. Like, well, you're this tiny little 5'2" woman who teaches anger management. We are looking for some big burly dude who, so I said, no, well, because most people don't know what anger management is. So when it came to the 7 Deadly Sins, which is the documentary on the History Channel, we wanted to shed light around not just anger, but what anger is and what anger management is and how it's entered our society and how it helps people. So typically, I think that when you're looking for anger management or anger management services, you think of someone who is maybe having road rage or desk rage or, maybe, violence in their relationships, things like that. Those are very different things. Although they're interconnected, they're related. They are very different aspects of this process. So just to clarify, anger management is made up of 3 things: stress management skills, emotional intelligence, or what I call emotional fitness, and interpersonal communication skills, also known as assertive communication, which a lot of people confuse for aggressive communication. Okay? So did that answer your question, or do I need to go back?
No, that's perfectly fine. So, so how did you? So you answered the question about how you get into it. Someone just said, "Oh, you should go into it." So
she's a great mentor to me, and I thought she must be kidding. I'm one of the happy. How can I teach anger management? I can't even take it seriously. But actually, let me tell you something. When I grew up, going back to that story about the baby setting, when I grew up, and being a child was different. It's not like it is now where, we communicate with our children and we have conversations and we respect each other for the most part. When I grew up, conflict was a natural piece of communication.
Yeah.
because my parents didn't get those, skills and those values, although they did their best and they were great parents. We believed in spanking. We believed in, like washing your mouth out with soap if you lie. You're laughing.
That's because I lived that life.
Do you see? So did I. And that's exactly why when I was trained, I realized, wow, what if people had this in their everyday life? Why isn't this a component of what we're teaching in school? And now we do. And we understand the term soft skills, most of us, that they're, relationship skills. And, we understand the importance of stress management. Now, just because we understand it doesn't mean we use it.
That's right.
So we'll get into that further. So yeah, that's really how I got into conflict resolution, anger management, and I shared my story with the producers, and they thought it would be a good idea to bring me on.
Well, that leads me to the next question. So tell us, how did you actually end up getting on the History Channel to be on that Seven Deadly Sins show? Like, what led them to either connect with you or you connect with them? How did that all transpire? Just sort of tell us about that.
Well, I think I'm the only female in the documentary. As far as, speaking about anger management and emotional fitness, things like that, they contacted me and wanted to learn more about anger management.
So how did they find you? Like, how did they know
literally,
about
it was a Google search. It was organic.
And
it was that simple.
Were you a best-selling author at that point in time?
I was actually. I had completed my first, but it was an anthology.
Okay.
It didn't really have much to connect with that. It was more about doing. Really, what I did was I was very consistent with press releases and social media and. Blogging and keeping materials updated on the website.
So creating and distributing content on a regular basis.
All the time. I had a team for that. And that was, if I wasn't seeing someone, I was working on that.
Okay.
So that's really, I guess, is what did it. In addition to just having, being different in the field. So does that make sense?
One of the only women in the field, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I've had individuals say to me, well, do you feel comfortable doing that? And I started out with court orders, and those are the people that are not interested in changing necessarily.
Yeah. They're
being forced to be there. So that's always a fun concept.
Oh, yeah.
You need humor for that one.
Yeah.
And then, it progressed into organizations hearing about, what I did. But, we also did things like health fairs, but continuously promoting and marketing and putting ourselves out there, putting, the facilitators out there, putting the organization out there, speaking engagements. Whatever I could find, I was on it.
So that the clip that we played was just over 3 minutes long. How long did it take to film that episode? Is there more clips or?
It was an entire day. You have no idea what they left on the editing floor. I mean, it was they came into my office and turned that place upside down. There was crew and people in there all day long, in and out, moving things. And then we had a bunch of my clients that were willing to be seen on the show and come into a group, and then they were all interviewed individually, and then they interviewed me. So I mean, it was a full day of production.
And then it only ended up being
for 3 minutes.
3 minutes long. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
typical.
Yeah. Well, I've been on I was an extra in a movie with Sandra Bullock and Dennis Leary years ago. And just spent the entire day just standing around, and it was one scene that took them all day to get one scene and or get it ready, and they shot it a couple times or whatever. But it's like seems like there's a lot of wasted time and effort to get that
split second.
Split second. Yeah. That's all it was a split second.
Yeah.
So
of footage.
Yeah, really. So as a result of being on the show, it's has it done anything to accelerate your authority in your space? What's it done with respect to getting clients? So how has it helped your business?
Well, it certainly helped my business in the realm of visibility, because they aired that for, I think it was 2 or 3 years in a row.
Okay.
And so it was, the gift that kept on giving. And it was funny because they would air it around the holidays, which is one of the highest stress related, times of the year, because people are doing things like spending money to impress people that they really don't care about, to look good, all these strange things that we do as human beings, right? But it's a very high stress. There's family gatherings, there's alcohol involved. So around that time of the year is typically when they would play it. And I would always hear about it from someone, because I never really kept close tabs on it, but I would know when it was airing, because someone would say, wow, we saw you on this show, and we'd like to know more about what you do.
Okay, excellent. So if anyone has any questions for Anutza, please just leave them in the comments. And if you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Anutza Bellissimo. She's an international best-selling author, CEO of the Stress and Anger Management Institute, been featured on the History Channel's 7 Deadly Sins, and works with CEOs and executives to minimize conflicting workforce behavior and engineer valuable organizational performance. So like I said, just please leave any questions or comments you have for her, and we'll try to get to them during the show. So Anutza, you run your own company, Stress and Anger Management Institute in Arizona.
Arizona and California.
And California. You have two
locations.
Two locations. You're also a mother to 3 children.
Yes.
You have demanding type A personality clients.
Yes.
So tell me about the stress in your life. And do you use your own techniques on yourself?
I do. And, I think it's one of the things that I could say and feel really good about is that I can relate to individuals at different levels, because stress is an inevitable part of life. It's just some stress keeps us sharp. Mm-hmm. Stress is not necessarily a bad thing. It's the level of stress and having room for margin that most people find challenging to balance. And I'm no different than anyone else, because I'm constantly walking my talk. I'm constantly doing what I teach. And that's why I think I love what I do so much, because it's not really work. It's really my lifestyle.
Okay.
Because I do have 3 kids, and because I run a business and I have, so many responsibilities, I can relate to individuals who also, I have high expectations. So, I don't know if it's a first child syndrome, or because typically it's a middle child thing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another one around there of my family that I don't know about. I'm actually a middle child. Who knows? But typically it's this overachiever, high expectations, very demanding, like you said, type A personality that has that challenge with managing the stress and their emotional expectations and the what I call emotional fitness, and then the stress management aspects of their life. So how do I manage that? And yes, I do use all of my tools. I'm very adamant about communication, because that is the biggest piece of anger management, really conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. Anger is never the problem. It's just it's the byproduct of mismanaged stress, poor communication, inability or deficiency in emotional fitness.
Right.
So I don't want to answer too much, because I know we have other questions. Does that make sense so far, or should I keep going?
No, it does. And I guess I had 2 questions. One question specifically about how do you balance your time between the 2 different cities, because you have children. And the other question was actually related to me personally, so I'll let you answer that one first, and then if I can remember the question, I will ask it about myself.
Okay. So I'm very regimented. I'm a planner. And that is something that it's a part of my DNA, so to speak.
So your high detail personality.
Well, I'm a big picture, okay, but there's specific things that I need in order to function. And that means, because although sometimes, I always say when I plan, God laughs. So I'm not sure if you know what that means.
Yeah, I know what that means.
But, I like to feel like I'm in some sort of control. So I will plan things and make sure that I communicate with people. And when things don't go as planned, that's when my tools kick in. That's when my breathing kicks in, my breathing exercises. And I am very adamant about enrolling my environment visually. So there are things all around me that constantly remind me to stay in sync.
Okay.
And there are great things like software apps that remind me to stay in sync. Something as simple as my Apple Watch with the Breathe app.
Yep.
Randomly, I will just stop wherever I'm at and just start breathing. And if I tell myself that I don't have time for 1 minute of breathing, we have a problem. Because that's the common thing that most people tell me is, I don't have enough time. I don't have the time. So you cannot afford not to. Because we make mistakes if we're out of alignment.
Right.
We make costly mistakes. We burn bridges. We do things that we regret. We say things that we regret. And, and I always remind my children, you can't unsee something that's been seen. You can't unspeak something that's been spoken. You can't undo things that you've already done. So make your choices wisely. And of course, I've learned that from not making a lot of wise choices throughout my life. And then I got it together, and I thought, okay, something's got to change. Yeah. Eventually, I got to the point where I realized that I needed to shift my decision-making process. So these are the things, to answer your question, that I believe are important to me, is my decision-making process. Am I bringing people into my life, or that are in my environment, that are in alignment with my core beliefs and values? Because a relationship that you get into, whether it's a friendship or a personal relationship, can, take your eyes off the road, and who knows where you could end up.
That's right.
And then you got to get back on course. So I don't like to waste time. That's why I like to plan. I'm a planner.
Okay.
And I love the idea of having things planned out. And then I have tools in place and strategies that help me manage through the process when things don't go as planned. And that's probably 50% of the time.
Okay. So when you were talking before about yourself and how you deal with it, so I'm just going to, I'll just fill you in a little bit about my personality type, okay, and how I deal with things. And then you can either choose to analyze me or give me information or not.
Okay.
So I avoid conflict at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been in a fight in my life. I dislike conflict. I'll actually walk away from conflict. Sometimes I don't even like to watch conflict on TV. That's how much I dislike conflict. I won't say I never get angry, but it's such a rarity that I ever get angry. I think I'm a pretty mellow, easygoing person. But I do know that I just bottle things up, and so I'm a very emotional person, but I don't.
You are sensitive,
but I don't show it.
Yes.
But I can sit and watch a TV show or watch a movie, and then this one little thing happens, and I start to cry. And if I'm with somebody, of course, I stop myself. I just hold it all in.
You suppress it.
So I suppress my feelings in public a lot, and I avoid conflict at all costs. and I don't even like to watch conflict at times. So I don't know what that says about me. But can you explain a little bit more of what the conflict resolution? Is it meant for people that actually are engaged in conflict, or do you work with people that sort of like myself that avoid conflict at all costs and like stress management? I don't believe I have really much stress in my life. I'm sure it comes in waves, but so can you tell us a little bit about conflict resolution? Is it for combatants? And a little bit about what stress management is.
Sure. So what you've just shared with me is that you are a highly sensitive person, and that the fact that you use avoidance, that's a coping skill. Okay. You use avoidance to, keep your emotions under check for the same reasons that you suppress those emotions. And obviously it serves you to some degree, but the problem is that internally, where you don't see what's happening, but your body, you've created a chemical reaction to your health that's actually not the best experience for you.
Which could actually, be the reason why it doesn't matter what I do, I cannot lose weight. And because I used to be in the bodybuilding industry, and it doesn't matter how hard I train, how well I eat, how much cardio I do. When I talk about how well I eat, I mean, we're talking about so strict that the average person could not eat that strict.
Got it.
And still not able to lose weight, and nobody's able to give me an answer. Mm-hmm. Trainers, dietitians, doctors, I have my DNA tested. Nobody can give me an answer as to what it is. So I'm wondering, so tell me a little bit more. This intrigues me because it's relating to me.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit more about these chemical imbalance. Are you talking about the cortisol?
Well,
levels?
Actually, let me tell you something. And I have some feedback. That's why I keep messing with my my computer over here. Here's what's interesting is I recently chose to let go of 50 pounds. And let me tell you that when you hold on to things, you'll eat them. You'll eat your emotions sometimes. Mm-hmm. Some people drink their emotions. Other people act out their emotions. Those are the people that, you see angry and they don't have any poker face. Like they just can't. You've probably got good poker face because you can suppress it pretty well. I don't know about that, but... Okay. Well, you've practiced. You've got years of practice. But seriously, it's a controlling factor. And you want to consider what it is that within your relationship with yourself that you're holding on to. I mean, some of the clues are already in what you've shared with me. And I think that you have to be ready to move through this process. And that's something that I see with a lot of people. When I mentioned earlier that you've got, or, I used to work with court-ordered individuals. And when you're being forced, when you're not ready for change, and you don't see the benefit, and you're not ready to embrace those things that you've suppressed and held back for so long, then you will continue to hold on to that weight and hold on to the things, because I truly believe I come from the space that the experience, everything starts up here. Mm-hmm. And, anger is not about all of a sudden you're angry. It's about the snowball effect. So what were you telling yourself before you got angry? What kind of conversation did you have with someone else before you got angry? What were you feeling before you got angry? So that's where your power is before that type of experience happens, because once you're there, you're already out of control. So my job is to look at your daily habits and to look at how you have your life structured. So these triggers, because really what happens is we set ourselves up for things, whether it's because we want to grow and move on, or maybe we don't really acknowledge and notice that they're there. So, I would like you to consider what's the distinction between where you were when you were bodybuilding and where you are now? What's the difference in who you are as a person? What happened for you, that shifted in your life? And obviously you don't have to share that with me now.
I'm just trying to think.
It will come up. It won't be present there right now. This is not the best opportunity for that, but you'll process that. And then when you work in conflict resolution, when you work inside of stress and anger management, it eventually shows itself.
Okay.
It's think the smallest amount of time, the shortest amount of time that I would work with someone, typically a level 1 conflict resolution anger management program is a 12-week course. So you've got 90 days of keeping yourself working at, understanding your triggers, acknowledging them, and then working at changing these habits and working with your facilitator to process the things that trigger you and why they trigger you. Maybe, you make it mean that it's disrespectful if you have conflict with someone, so you'll avoid that. But some conflict is natural. It's not a bad thing. Conflict is not a bad thing. It helps us grow. Mm-hmm. Have you heard the story about the lobster that only grows in its shell? It's got the shell, and then it has to go underneath the rock, and it's this discomfort of needing to expand in its rock. So in its shell. Do you remember that story?
Vaguely.
Okay. So there's room for growth. Conflict is not a bad thing. It's really a gift. I see it as a gift, just like anger is a gift, because it's a red flag. Okay. Anger is the perfect gift because it says to you, you're out of alignment with your core beliefs, your values, your authentic self, and let's figure out who you've brought into your life, what you're doing that doesn't really resonate with who you are.
Okay.
So that's what you want to consider is who were you before that, and who are you now, and where is it that you feel the need to be so controlled? Because think about it, most people that have stress and anger is because they're wanting to control situations in their lives, and I get that. And what taught me to understand was being a parent, because I loved having control of my schedule, my life, who was in it, who wasn't in it. And then all of a sudden you bring in other people and there's no control. I've just given up my control.
Right.
So it's a great teacher. I'm not suggesting everyone go out and have kids. Please don't do that. That's not what I'm saying.
It's not in my immediate future. So if you guys are just joining us, I'm speaking with Anutza Bellissimo. She's an international best-selling author, CEO of the Stress Anger Management Institute, been featured on the History Channel, 7 Deadly Sins, works with CEOs and executives to minimize conflicting workforce behavior and engineer valuable organizational performance. And if anyone has any specific questions they have for Anutza, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'm just going to give a couple shout outs. I see Barry just joined us, and Hasmeek joined us as well. Thanks for joining us, guys. Please like, love, share this on your Facebook feed. And we're talking specifically about conflict resolution and anger management. And actually, we just talked a little bit about my avoidance of conflict and what that means, and how that it's like some chemical reactions in my body, and that could be a cause to why
healthy for you.
Why I'm doesn't matter how many hours I do cardio or go to the gym or eat so extremely healthy that I just unable to lose some weight. So we're going to just move on from that. We'll stop talking about me for a minute. And so what I want you to do, Anutza, is tell me a little bit about your typical client. Who are they? What specific issues do they have? Why are they reaching out to you for help? Or is it someone that reaches out on their behalf?
Well, actually, there's both. Typically, my clients are made up of very successful individuals. So you've got an attorney, you've got a physician, you've got someone who is a high profile entrepreneur. So these are people that are very controlled. Okay? They're people that are very controlled. They have high expectations. They have standards that others and themselves, they have the ability to deliver when it comes to life, because they push themselves and they don't quit. They're not, someone that has given up on life or is just, walking through life leisurely. Yeah. These are people that are ambitious and they're driven. And so the way that they got there, at some point, it works, but then there's a point where we need to grow and move past pushing the boulder up the hill. And, typically it's someone who is in the workforce, and they've been with an organization for 10, 15, 25 years. So they're very valuable to that organization. But through change, transitions in the workplace, personalities, cultural diversity, they are not keeping up with the experience of the growth within the organization. And so this is stressful for them because they like things the way they had it because it worked for them and it got them to where they needed to be. Right. But as we all know, the only thing we can count on is change.
That's right.
So those individuals that are having difficulty with accepting the change process, but there has to be a method or a form of transition. Those that have high expectations in the workforce and the other individuals are not measuring up. So what that means is you'll see someone who is a perfectionist maybe at their work, and they're working with a group of people who don't have the same expectations and standards as they do. So they can't control that, and it gives them stress, and they've lost any ability to control their emotions in the workforce, in the work field. Okay, so this is in the office, but how it typically shows up is the male that's between 35 and 55. They typically have a marriage, couple of children, successful individual, works very hard, but they've conditioned their life to work around their schedule and their business, their success. Eventually, people get sick and tired of working around your schedule and your success. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's because they've done it to provide and to produce and to deliver the expectations of what they think other people want from them. But now they've become burnt out, and it could be things like compassion fatigue when we're talking about physicians and individuals in that matter. It could be entrepreneurs who just push themselves to the limit to succeed so high that they can't hold on to relationships. They've been divorced 3 times, or they are never in a relationship because they're afraid of committing and disappointing. So, things like that. That's what it shows up like. That's the average student.
Can you walk me through the process of working with them quickly? Like just shortcut it?
We've got 12:50. I don't think you've got that time, but
shortcut. That's why I said shortcut it.
Okay. So, because I have a client in about 10 minutes.
I know.
So, the first thing you want to do is complete an assessment. That's the most important piece of this experience when we're first starting. We want to get clear on the current skill set. We're looking at leadership skills. We're looking at emotional intelligence. We're looking at stress management and physical health. We're looking at, their interpersonal communication skills, but more importantly, their change orientation. Because if an individual comes to me and says, hey, I would like you to work with me, I say, that sounds wonderful. Tell me what you want to change. I listen for what's available for them. But then I ask them, here you go, take this assessment. And the assessment shows that if they're low on the score of change orientation, I have no business working with them because they're not motivated enough to take on this process of change, because I don't care if it's toothpaste. If it's good for you and you're changing something, you're going to resist it eventually.
Yeah.
So a student has to be, a client has to be normal to high change orientation. And typically within that normal to high change orientation, within something as short as a level 1 program, a 12-week or 12-hour course, I have seen nonstop at least a 30% increase in skill set. That's just in 12 weeks. So because we're really focused on what it is that the skill set. We're not playing with the invisible. We're very focused on the skill sets. And those 3 skills, again, your stress management, emotional intelligence, and interpersonal communication skills. So you've got valid, tangible results.
Okay. So moving forward, so how can the average everyday person benefit from this type of stress or anger management? How can it help them, with their communication in their personal or professional lives? Just for the average everyday person, these are not. We're talking, maybe they're not the high A type executives, but just the average person. How can these strategies help them?
Okay. Well, this work helps everybody, and if you come in to improve your professional life, it runs over into your personal life. If you come in to improve your personal life, it runs over into your professional life. It is all connected. And what you say is the average individual. Really, those are the same people that I work with, because we're all human beings. We're all driven to some level, and it's all relative according to where they're coming from, right?
Right.
But the skills are uniform throughout. It's not as though someone who is a high achiever and high expectations as opposed to someone who doesn't gets a different skill set. It's how they interpret it and where they are in the change process. So the average person, I would say, is going to benefit the same way that someone else would. But I would suggest that they always consider their level of change orientation. How motivated are you to change? And what is it going to do for your life? Will it bring you the success that you want? Will it bring you the relationship that you want? How will it feel when you can engage in a relationship with someone where you're not always arguing and you always feel like you're never getting your needs met? Right. All of these things. So when you are able to produce and communicate effectively in the workplace and people respect you instead of talk about you behind your back because they're afraid of you or don't understand you, because they can't connect with you, they can't relate to you. Do you understand?
I understand. So just one last quick question, because I know you have to go. So how can your training benefit, say, an entrepreneur who's looking to grow their business or accelerate their business? So is there any place for your training that when implemented to an entrepreneur, they'll actually see success or growth in their business?
Yes. So what I've found is that when I'm working with entrepreneurs, they typically come in for their personal relationship, and it does show up in their personal relationship, but it actually just flows again over into their professional relationships, because now what I hear them tell me is, well, I had this conversation with my partner and I used the assertive formula that you taught me, and we're not having that type of conflict anymore. Not only is my wife happy at home, but or
timer,
those kinds of things. Yeah, exactly. But see, I've got alarms for alarms.
Yeah.
And so it does, because it allows you to communicate. As an entrepreneur, you're not selling stuff all the time. You are creating relationships. Yes. And when people don't feel that you're being authentic or yourself, or that they can trust you, it's going to take longer to get that deal. You may not even get it if someone doesn't really relate to you or feel that you care about what they're doing in their business or about their needs. Right. Does that make sense?
It does, completely.
And so it gives you a new way to relate with people, still being yourself and carrying on some of those traditions and values that are important to you, but you can also attract or find more people to do business with, because your energy, your persona is different. Your character is open, and people want to be around you.
Yes.
They don't feel the tension anymore.
Yeah, you're being a genuine person, and you're open to it, basically everything. So, Anutza, I know that you have to go. I know you have a client in 4 minutes, so I personally want to thank you for being on the show and sharing with us about stress and anger management. I'll post all your contact links in the comments below in the show notes. So if anyone wants to connect with Anutza, please do so. All the information will be provided. Everyone show Anutza some love by hitting that like button, love button. Make sure that you share this on your Facebook feed. And Anutza, it's been great having you on the show, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon. So everyone, just
fun.
Thanks. We'll definitely have to do this again. So everyone, just I'll be back in a few minutes with the closing remarks. So take care, Anutza.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you for joining me on today's John A. McCabe Show. Now, emotions control a lot of what we do in life. It drives our relationships, our partnerships, and even our buying decisions. Now, it's crucial for you to understand the emotional reason your ideal target market makes their buying decisions, or what emotional events that can happen to them just before they make that buying decision. For example, are you selling furnace cleaning or air conditioning checkup services? Because there's nothing more emotional to a homeowner than when their furnace breaks or stops working and it's minus 20 degrees Celsius outside, or it's the middle of the summer in Arizona and the air conditioning breaks. Now, understanding their emotional state at that point in time can be very beneficial when it comes to crafting your marketing message to your ideal target market. Now, understanding their emotions and what causes them to take action can be key when it comes to selling maintenance services, or basically any type of service. Now, much of today's marketing is built on emotion. Always remember to keep in mind the desired outcome of the ideal target market, what benefits they're going to receive as a result of using your product or service or solution, and learn to understand what drives their emotional buying decisions for solutions just like yours. Now, getting clear on these aspects of your business are really the foundation of being able to connect with your audience, attract more of your ideal target market, and move people to take action. Now, if you'd like some assistance on getting clarity on your ideal target market, understanding their buying decisions, and what messages would get them to take action, then contact me through my website at johnamccabe.com, or you can leave a message on my Facebook show page and I'll follow up with you then. Now, again, I want to thank you for joining me on today's John A. McCabe Show, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one, which airs right here on Facebook Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Now, as always, we'll have some great guests on. We'll talk about specific strategies and journeys that will really educate you with growing your business and accelerating your authority, so you can live your life of freedom, choices, and options. Now, have yourself a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the John A. McCabe Show.